Hey folks, another Broken Meeple Tap 100 video. I am sweltering, that is no word of a lie. We're back to another heat wave in Britain and it's driving me nuts. I've had it with the summer, can we please get into autumn, my favourite season of the year, where it's cooler, things are still, decent to look at, it's still good enough to go on holiday, it's cheaper to go on holiday, there's Essen, there's other conventions. Seriously, can we get to October and September and all that please, because I'm done with this heat. But on top of that, you might be wondering what on earth this weird dice thing is in the picture. I promised some friends of mine at my local game club that I'd show off this. This was a trophy that a friend of mine has made for me because of a local board gaming tournament at my Southampton gaming cafe I go to. It was a multi-game tournament. You played things like Dominion, Alhambra, King of Tokyo and that. And effectively, I think we culminated with Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel. And to be honest, I didn't really care if I won it. I just wanted to play Seven Wonders Duel because I hadn't played it in a while. But they made me promise that I'd show off the little trophy thing. So yes, that is definitely legit. And they got their wish. So I'll put it up there for this video, but I can't guarantee it's going to go in every single one. Anyway, enough of that. This is now my 20 to 11. 20 to 11. We're just talking about 10 games here, but hopefully I can go over them in a bit more detail, and I'll obviously have pictures up to show off some components and some game things. So almost like a normal top 10 video this will be. Whereas the other ones I kind of had to speed through and get through 20. This one I can maybe take my time. We shall see. It depends. Like I say, I ad-lib these videos, so we'll just see how it goes in the moment. But yep, 20 games left. The creme de la creme. 2 more new debuts remain. Just 2. Apart from that, the other 18 games are ones you've seen before. What order they're in, has my number 1 changed? You'll have to see. But for now, let's get the move on, eh? The creme de la creme. Number 20. And this is an Asmadi card game that I really wish I could get to the table more often. It's, let's see, it's dropped by 3 places, who cares? It's still going to remain quite steady, but maybe it'll drop slightly over time just because it's, as much as I love it, it's hard for me to sell the game for 2 reasons. One, it's a card game that requires maybe a play or 2 to get the hang of. And secondly, I'm sorry, the graphic design is nice, but it's not exactly a looker, is it? And that's innovation. Innovation is just a cool card game. It's not a looker, like I say. Some people might argue against that. The yellow version was a lot better. I have the 3rd edition, which has cleaned up some of the graphical issues, but it's still a fundamental abstract card game. But what I love about it is this idea, and I like this about a lot of other card games like MotionArray and stuff like that, is this whole thing of combo building and shenanigans with cards. You are placing cards down and each one has an ability, possibly a co-op or a aggressive ability. And the idea is that the co-op ones affect you and the other players, whereas the aggressive ones are negatives that you inflict on the other players. But you're going through all these technology cards that are in 5 different colors. You may end up splaying them, which is kind of like their weird way of saying that you slide the card so that more of these symbols can be revealed. The more symbols you have, the more likely your abilities are going to trigger against the opponent, or the more likelihood you will share in the co-op ones. And it is basically a case of you're trying to reach a certain victory goal, which could be based on one of the endgame cards. It could just be the base winning condition of getting a certain amount of dominations, or and it's all done with combo building. But it's just it's hard to describe. It's just lots of fun with the shenanigans on cards. You play one game and it goes a certain way, and then you play another game and it goes a completely different way. You throw in an expansion or 2, like I've got the deluxe set down there, and it throws even more variety into the mix. It is a bit of a brain burner at times. Not in the sense that it's like, oh my god, super strategic. It's not. It's a very tactical card game. You have to, and I love those sort of things, you have to base your strategy, well, not even a strategy, you have to base your gameplay on what cards you get. It's no good saying, well, this game I'm going to focus more on the blues and I'll win that way. No, it may not go that way for you. You have to draw a couple of cards and say, okay, I could use this to my advantage. All right, I'll try that. Oh, great. He's building up a lot of the crown symbols, and he's really screwing me over with that archaeology power. But hang on, if I get more of these, I can put a stop to that. I can send it to the bottom of his pile. Yes, I could do that. You have to think on the fly, and I love card games that do that. Innovation, not one for everyone. I'll highly stand by that. There are some people who I would imagine would vomit profusely at this game. But personally, I still love it. I wish I could get it to the table more because it's a fantastic two-player game. Average at 3, well, good at 3. It depends who you're playing with. Absolute bleh at 4. So I would never play this with 4 players. Maybe the 2v2 team mode, but honestly, it's a one-on-one two-player game. That's the way it should be played. Just wish I could get those to the table more often. Okay. Number 19 dropped 5 places, and this might drop a bit more over time because it's very hard to get to the table and it's a bit of a mammoth setup and like scope of the table. I mean, this isn't something that I can just bring to a game night and go, ooh, I'll play this one, this will be alright. No, I have to plan ahead and think, right, have I got a game? 3 to 5 players? Good. Do I have a table big enough? Do I want to carry these 2 giant boxes with me? And that's Rising Sun. Cool Mini or not, Eric Lang. This one is easily miles better than Blood Rage for me personally. Blood Rage is okay, but I don't know, I find it a bit samey, you know, low-key strategy. As much as some people will defend it's not the dominant strategy, it is certainly the easiest one to do well with. And of course, when you're playing this with a lot of new players, people go for low-key and they tend to win. It's one of those things. I mean, yes, you can beat it, but you need to know what you're doing. And like I say, it just kind of felt a bit samey. But Rising Sun, I really like the way this one plays. I mean, okay, it looks gorgeous. You know, I've got the neoprene mat, I've got all those miniatures, I bought a Kickstarter edition. That does not influence my opinion at all, though. I could have happily been there with the retail version and the board. But I love the way this one plays, where it's, yeah, everyone's got asymmetrical powers. You've got this area control set, you know, victory condition on the board. The clans feel very different in how you should play them. But you have these god cards that you can summon to the board and they give you little special powers. You have these, you know, special cards that come out every round and they could be trait cards. They give you a special ability. It could be endgame scoring. It could be just a giant monster, you know, this huge troll thing that I get to put on the board and it's my monster. I get to control it, no one else. And I always love it when a game does that. You know, it gives me something unique to control that someone else can't just suddenly nick and use from themselves. As I say, looks gorgeous, plays very well, as long as you remember that the whole diplomacy thing that they went for is kind of, yeah, what? You know, there was a lot of hype built for this game, and I am one of those people that says that no game, not even any game on this Tap 100, justifies the amount of hype it gets. And this one, they hyped up the whole diplomacy thing, like, oh, you're entering alliances with other players. Yes, but it's more of a, you know, meeting the circumstance. You know, you if you ally together, then some abilities, like, you both share the experience. But it's not like a negotiation game or anything like that. We're not talking cosmic encounters level of alliances here. It's more just, are you going to go with another player, share some bonuses, or are you going to go by yourself and get maybe the effect of the betray tile a little bit better? So, you know, don't expect a big negotiation game. Just expect a big, sprawling area control game that looks the absolute business and isn't even that complicated to play. The rules to it are actually pretty straightforward. It's more the setup of it that takes a bit of time, but you know, you just you draw 4 tiles, you choose one, do the action. There's only about 5 or 6 you have to, you know the rules for, and the game just plays out over the ages until eventually someone wins with the most victory points. Nice and simple. It's not that complicated, but for me, a lot of people prefer Blood Rage. I personally prefer Rising Sun. Tomato, tomato, pick your poison. This one, though, I think with its whole Japanese theme and just the idea that you have these big monsters. Yes, I know Blood Rage has them as well, but I feel that they feel a bit more meaningful in this one. You know, having those tiles really being unique. I've tried many paths to victory, and of course the expansions to this add more clans, more monsters, more ways to play. It's definitely, I think, is this my go-to area control game? I would probably say, well, it depends if you consider a game later on as one. We'll get to it. But no, I mean, if you just want like a bare bones, I need to control areas and, you know, beat on other players, then yeah, this is my favorite, Rising Sun. Okay, number 18, and we have the first of the 2 new debuts. And I made a slight error on the last video, which I put a speech bubble up there for, where when I was talking about Portal games, I mentioned that, oh yeah, this Empires of the North, this is my favorite game from Portal and Ignacy Trzewiczek. Whoops, sorry, my bad.
We're sorry.
Thankfully, I corrected it in the editing, but this is my favorite Portal game, and I know this because I'm looking at the list and I can check, you know, the next 17 odd games. You know, 17 odd games. This is my favourite Portal game. There's been 2 games released in the same year similar to this, and one of them you heard on my list earlier. But you know me, love a good thematic game, something that really puts me in the theme, immerses me into a good story, and keeps me coming back for more. Of course, if it's brain-burny as well, that's a pretty good deal as well. This one though, out of the 2 detective-style games... Oh wait, I just spoiled it. Yeah, Detective. The Detective. I love Chronicles of Crime. It was on my last list. You know, I'm not going to dispute it. Both of them are phenomenal. And maybe there's one for some people and one for another. But, oh, I love this game. I love this one. You've got a 5-story campaign in the base box. I've played through most of. I've got one more story to do in the LA Crimes expansion, which is so good. The story in it is great, and I love the 80s theme that comes out with like the Polaroids and the story you're doing and the setting. But this is basically a deduction game, a heavy deduction game. It is basically, the base set is essentially putting you in a CSI CSI, format. You are detectives trying to solve a mystery. It gives you a plot, it tells you some locations you could go, some leads you could follow, and this deck of cards, kind of like how sort of time story stuff works, where it's like a deck of cards tells the whole story. But this one doesn't give you locations, it gives you a lot of text. You've got to be prepared for some reading here. But it gives you a story arc. So you might decide, right, okay, this murder is taking place, this hit and run. And it's like, okay, let's see. Well, I could go do forensics on the actual body. I could go to the crime scene itself. Who was the witness? Could go question them. You go and question them. And then this app that not an app, a website that you log on to, you type in things like fingerprints and like mugshots, like names of people, and it brings up the actual mugshot. So you get to read the profile of some dude, it's like age 69, died in car crash, was known for robbery, etc. And it gives you all this detail. On top of that, you can read transcripts of interrogation meetings, and then other story elements might pop up as you go through. Clues that you find from one story lead on to stuff in future stories, as it tells one big overarching plot as well as the individual stories. It is hard as all get out. Either that or I suck. Probably the latter. But I find that when you get marked at the end, it's not easy to get a good mark in this. You can pass the scenario, but be prepared to fail at times when you go through those questions and you're like, oh... I was meant to do what? It's not as bad as Sherlock Consulting Detective by far, but yeah, if you go off on a tangent like I tend to, you tend to forget you're supposed to be thinking about something else. But, oh man, there's not even that many components in the box. Deck of cards for each story, some tokens, and a little board, and some ID cards. That's about it. There's not a lot of components. It's purely like that website, which is free, don't worry, you haven't got to pay a subscription or anything, but it just puts you in that mood. LA Crimes made it even better with like a free story campaign, and they're going to do this from now on because 5 is a little bit long, and you can play this with as many players as you like, although I recommend 4 max, so that everybody's kind of got a key role to play. I personally play this solo because I tried playing it in a group, and the first time I played it in a group, it was a demo with Ignacity and... Well, Ignacity was supervising. I was in a demo with Who Dares Rolls and a couple of other people, and that was great. That was so much fun. But then I played it with some friends of mine, and they couldn't quite get the heady reading and thought processes that were needed. It was too heavy for them. So I do warn you, if you're not prepared for a heavy deduction game, this kind of won't work for you. Maybe focus on Chronicles of Crime. But I was so into it that I decided to carry on solo. I've done LA Crimes solo. There's a lot for me to think about. I've got to consider all these things. But, oh man, with LA Crimes, I put on like Spotify and shove on like the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack and Lethal Weapon and stuff. And it just puts me into that mood. This is hands down my favorite deduction game ever. It's great. There's a standalone case that was with the pre-ordered game, and word on the street is that Ignacity is, well, word on the street, it's happening. He's doing other cases written by other designers. I think Rob Daviau and I forget who the other one is. I can't remember, but he's basically got, these proper designers to write cases, and they're going to get released as standalone things. So the content is just going to keep coming out for this. It's been nominated, I think it was nominated for Kennerspiel as well. Didn't quite win it. I was rooting for it, but you know, it deserves all the accolades it gets. This is a phenomenal game. Love it. I think I've rabbled on too much about it now. Detective, modern crime board game. Number 17, yes, David Turksey, you know, designs some pretty sweet games. He's generally known for designing some very sweet solo modes in heavy Euro games, but this is kind of like his opus, you know, his main heavy Euro that he's known for. Mind Clash I've already talked about twice on this Top 100. This is my favourite of all the Mind Clash titles. It is probably, I think, the first one I played. I feel pretty certain it's the first one I played, even though technically the other one, Dracarion, was around. But, oh, Anachrony. Do I love Anachrony. Anachrony is this big heavy Euro thematic where, you know, this big apocalypse is coming. You know, a meteor is going to strike the planet, and you, as one of 4 separate sort of paths, you know, like not corporations, but kind of like, hard to say, they're not cults, factions, I suppose, is one way of putting it. You know, they see it coming because the world is open to time travel. They're experimenting with it, and so rather than prevent the catastrophe, you can do that in a mini expansion, but rather than prevent it, they know it's going to happen, but they want to be the faction that leads, you know, humanity to survival net after the impact happened. And essentially you are making, you know, building super projects, building buildings, you know, inventing like time travel equipment and stuff, and you're basically preparing for the evacuation of everybody from the capital in order to, well, yeah, you're generating the most victory points at the end of the day, but oh my god, the theme drips off this one so good. I mean, it's complex, it's heavy. I mean, you're talking a good 3-hour Euro game here. But there are elements of this that just sing to me. It's worker placement, and it's tense worker placement. I mean, you know, those spaces are contested. You gotta be careful. But theme drips off this so much. The idea is that you've got buildings that you will put on your player board, and workers of 4 different types, you know, administrators, engineers, etc., can go into the different buildings in your thing, and that's fine. It's a worker placement, but nobody can block you out of those. However, on the main board, you can put your worker into this mech, and the mech goes out to those worker spaces, and they're heavily contested. It's the idea that you're going out into the harsh, like, wastelands versus the safety of your own sanctuary. But oh, that just works so great with the theme, and I've got the blinged out version with the mech models. Completely unnecessary apart from cosmetics, but it's just so satisfying to go, here's my little administrator, shunk, dunk, you know, there's my mech. And with everybody's mechs on the table, it just looks great. I've seen painted ones, they look fantastic. Mine aren't painted, I don't have the skill or the time or the patience for that, but, you know, oh yeah, it looks good. But what I really love, the time travel thing. Honestly, Dave, you deserve a David, did you come up with this idea? Is it you that came up with this concept? You deserve a medal if you did, because it's brilliant. Debt in most games, you know, you think like, oh yeah, I'll just borrow some money from the bank and then you got to pay it back later with interest. Yeah, we already know that. There's standard bank interesting. Debt in this one works a little bit differently. The idea is that every round you can create, you know, you end up creating these like time travel breaches by requesting resources from the future. It's like this round, it's like, let's see, you do a closed fist bidding and you reveal it, and it could be like, right, I need some spare water, I need another engineer, I need a spare mech, I need some resources, some titanium, you know, stuff like that. And you reveal it and the resources you have for that round. So great, I've got some bonus resources. There's a catch. You are effectively borrowing this stuff from yourself in the future. And if you don't, at some point in the future of the game, go back and fix it by actually giving those same resources up, you end up creating these time travel paradoxes which cause anomalies which block up your buildings and give you negative victory points. Every time I think about that, I get goosebumps. It's just so good. Time travel has never been represented in a board game to, you know, that well. It's a difficult thing to do. I mean, it's time travel. It's hard enough to represent in TV and movies. But, oh my god, this works so well. It just blows my mind every time I do it. You know, the fact that I've borrowed some titanium from myself in the future, so 3 rounds later I think, right, that paradox is getting a little bit annoying now. I need to, oh wait, I got a spare titanium now. Right, you in the past, here you go. mind blown. This is like an example of how wet and dripping the theme is of this game, and I think you can kind of see yeah, pun intended, a theme with my top 20. You know, a lot of these are going to be thematic games, and as I said, good mechanics make me enjoy a game. Theme is what makes me come back for more, and this one I enjoy coming back for more. There's an expansion I've kickstarted which allows you to, you know, use this additional resource to effectively like skip, well not skip, time skip or space skip, I don't know. It basically allows you to take one of your mechs and move it to a different spot after you've already placed it. So you're basically glitching through space as well as time, and of course, when you do that, you run the risk of these glitches completely messing up your player board and your ability to get points in that. Oh, I cannot wait for that expansion. I tried it at AirCon in its prototype form. Honestly, if it's going to get refined since then, I just cannot wait. I cannot wait to get this game to the table again. I love it so much. Anachrony. Oh my god. Okay, number 16. Oh yeah, sorry, stats-wise, Anachrony climbed 2 places. So yeah, it's constantly around this level. You know, it's got a lot of setup, and it's certainly, you know, not the easiest game to teach people, but every time I play it, I have a blast. And that's forgetting about any of the mini expansions. I don't play with any of them. I'm perfectly happy with the game as it stands, but I do want this expansion fast. Okay, next one. Artipia Games is responsible for this, and this has climbed a lot. This is in fact, a couple on this list have. This has risen 15 places from 31, and this game just gets better and better and better for me. I love, well, I don't love the original game it's based on, but I have nostalgic connections to it. This is a game I like to call the Game of Life Euro Edition. This is the kind of the best way I can think about doing it. And you might think, well, hang on, the Game of Life, you know, some random mainstream game? Seriously, this is going to be your number 16? Yes, it is. Because the pursuit of happiness is brilliant fun to play. This from Artipia Games and Vangelis, oh god, Bagiatakis. Forgive me if I can't pronounce these names properly. But the idea with this one is, like I say, Game of Life. You start your life as a teenager and go on to old age and then eventually die. Okay, that sounds morbid, but bear with me here. The idea is that you are living your life through that time period and you're trying to have the most long-term happiness victory points at the end of the game. But what you have are these decks of projects, items and activities, jobs, like dates. And the idea is that you take these cards, level them up, pay the resources and things like creativity and that. Worker placement with effectively your time is the workers, and it allows you to go do things like study, get a temp job, you know, or take on some of these cards. But you live your life how you want to. It's almost a sandbox experience. You know, you're trying to like get the most victory points at the end of the day, but you just get into the theme and decide, you know what? You know, I wrote a short story as a kid, and that was what I did, and now, oh look, there's a project on make amateur movie. Okay, well I'm going to do that. My short story from earlier is now an amateur film. And then, you know, after that, in old age, I suddenly became a ninja and the leader of a motorcycle group. Wait, what? You know, I've seen that happen. It can happen. But all these things, you just basically pick what you want to do. And, you know, do you want to take on loads of different projects and hobbies? Well, be careful, it will stress you out. Do you want to buy a ton of items and hoard stuff? Well, then you better get yourself a decent job if you want to do that. What job do you want? Do you want a science job, an arts job, or, you know, a political job? And are you going to have a girlfriend at this point? You're going to date someone just casually, you know, as a one-off? You're going to have a relationship with someone, or you're going to go the full length and have a family with kids? And thematic-wise, perfect, because when you have a big job, it not only requires a lot of resources to keep going, but it sucks up a ton of your time each round so you have less workers. Same thing with a date and a relationship. Dating is fine. Relationship takes time. Family takes even more time, like the rest of your life. Seriously. You know, I'm not one that's going to have kids in my life. At least that's not my plan. But, you know, you can get what I'm saying with the theme here. You know, the fact that you do these big things, it takes up your workers, and therefore each round you have less to do. Theme works brilliantly. But maybe I do want to just say, you know what, I've got no kids, no family, no girlfriend, I just have a job that pays the bills, and I sit at home playing nothing but my board game collection, and my video game collection, and my, you know, while going on cruises, and having a good car. wait a minute, that life sounds strangely familiar. But, you know, it just works. You play it, you have stories to tell about the stories, so about the life you've led, you laugh at what everyone else is doing, everybody just gets into it. You can't play this as a dry experience. It has to be played with some element of role play, some element of immersion, but it does get you into it because you just can't help but laugh at some of the choices you make to live your life. Everybody just cracks up with it. I love it. The solo mode is great because I get to basically do it again. I get to live my life how I choose while trying to meet some objective conditions like own a ton of items or have the highest level paid job when I die, that kind of thing. The expansion added, like the community expansion, added a way to do neighborhood tasks. So you might have done babysitting for someone. You might have, helped someone like, who was going to drown at the beach or something, and then the neighborhood likes you, and that gets you popularity points and allows you to do your life in that way. An experiences expansion that I kickstarted, which I can't wait for in Essen, is I forget the full details. I think it's something about you can kind of forecast your life from an early point. So you say that, right, in my life I'm going to doing this. And if you do it, great, you get the bonus. But if you fail to do it, then it stresses you out and depresses you because, well, like I say, you had a long time dream and then it doesn't work. Theme is great with this. The rules aren't that complex. If you're a gamer, you'll get this easily. The artwork is cartoony, bright and colorful. It pops on the table. I love this game. It's so much fun. In fact, I think I've done a solo play of this. I believe I have done a solo play of this on my channel already. I did, yeah. I did the base set. It was the first one I did. So, yeah, go check out my solo play of that video if you want to see more about it. But, yeah, love this one so much. Pursuit of Happiness. Number 15. Yes, Ryan Luckett, Red Raven Games. I've already talked highly about him on my Top 100. I said I was eventually going to get to my favourite one of his. This is my favourite Ryan Luckett game without even a shadow of a doubt. I mean, where was the last one? In fact, I can't even see the last one on my screen, and my screen is going down as low as 36. I'm pretty positive the last one was lower than this. This one has risen a lot as well. 14 places, up from 29, because this just gets better and better as I play it. I mean, this could rise. This has got potential to be a top 10 game for me. It does have the potential. I feel it could just use an expansion with some added variety, although there's still plenty in the game as it is, but still, I would like to see an expansion for this. It could easily elevate this into top 10, but it's getting close. It's getting close. That is Empires of the Void 2nd edition specifically. This is my go-to space game. Yeah. Move aside Twilight Imperium 4. Move aside Exodus Proxima Centauri and go burn in hell somewhere Eclipse. But, banking checkbook in space, come on. But all these space games that have come out, some of them are good. I mean, I like Twilight Imperium 4. It's too long, but I like it fine. And Exodus Proxima Centauri, I've not played, but, looks quite cool. And I have played other spacefaring games, and they're all, most of them, not Eclipse, are decent enough fun. This one, though, is what I want in a spacefaring game. Exploration, to an extent. You kind of know where all the planets are, but you're flying your colony ship around all these different planets, and the planets have different races on them, and each race you can either be allies with them or conquer them. If you conquer them, you get a resource, and you also have victory points for conquering them, but you don't get any of their cool abilities. Whereas if you're allied with them, you won't get the resources, but you get to recruit the indigenous population into your colony. And you also have a special ability for being allied with the planet, and those particular aliens that you've recruited might be better at combat. They might help you get more money, they'll help you to build, that kind of thing. And it is basically kind of like a free X space game. There's not a huge amount of exploration, but there's definitely exploitation, there's definitely extermination, and what's the other one? Expand. Yeah, you definitely expand because you build, you find planets, you ally with some, you conquer others, and you expand your network. But two things about this game really sing to me. I think two, maybe three, we'll see. But firstly, this is one of the most, if not the most gorgeous game I own. And I mean super gorgeous. I want every bit of artwork in this game on my wall stat. I want the board on my wall stat. This is Ryan Luckett's artwork at its very best. all the planets, all the races, the board itself, it is a thing of quintessential exquisite beauty. I love looking at this board, even if I am doing rubbish in the game, I don't care. I just want to look and stare at this board. It's so beautiful. It's like the perfect space artwork for me. Secondly, I love the way the turn sequence works. It keeps you engaged with less downtime. Because normally you'd be like, right, I got to do my entire turn, then somebody else might get to do something, then somebody else might get to do something. But here it's a bit different. Here, the turn sequence isn't quite as linear as that. Someone chooses a main action out of 5, and you can't repeat the same one from round to round. They perform the main action, and then every player after them gets a choice of whether they want to follow that action, or do their own thing, or just refresh their board. And timing's everything, because it's like, well, if I do this action, I know they're going to do something, and I know they're going to do something. They're benefiting as much as me. How important is that right now? Maybe I should wait for her to do it, because then when she does it, I'll follow on then. But can I wait that long? Do I need it now? Maybe I should take I could take the research action, because you're out of resources, you don't have any money, so all you two are going to do is refresh while I'm going to build stuff. It's great decision making, a good tactical decision you make just with like what action you pick out of 5. And then on top of that, you've got fantastic variety in the power cards. The power cards themselves, you only use like 8 out of 10 planets or something like that, in the game. Each planet carries its own set of power cards, and you mix the lot together to form the deck. Yes, you will see all these cards from game to game, hence I believe an expansion with more planets would be a benefit. But you have these event cards, and the event cards are tied to a specific planet. There's about 6 or 7 of them, I think, for each planet. You shuffle 1 per planet into the deck. And these have game-changing effects. I mean, a planet might be about to explode. A big monster rises out of another. Something becomes a lucrative banking planet. Another one, like insectoids, rise out of the ground and kick you off the planet. I had that happen to a friend of mine in the last game. That was hilarious. But it creates these cool game-changing story moments. And there's 6 for each planet. You don't use every planet, and you only put 1 from each planet in the game. The variety is off the charts. There are story elements in this game I haven't even seen yet. And I'm like, I've not seen this happen. I want to shuffle a new card in, and I can't wait for it to trigger. It's just my kind of space exploration game. It's not too complicated, although the rulebook could maybe use a bit of a rewrite in places. It was a minor challenge to get all the rules down, but it's in my head. I can teach it fine. But I love looking at it. I love playing it. I love the tactical turn decision-making system. I love how, I've already said how it looks. I love the combat is nice and easy. There's a small element of luck, but it's easily mitigatable because you roll a ton of dice based on the people you have. You only put your 3 best ones into combat, so there's none of this whole stack a giant army and like lawnmower over everything. It's like, just your 3 best units, and you roll a bunch of dice, but you only pick the highest one. So having lots of dice will generally give you a higher result, but you could still get a high result from only rolling 1 die. And then you simultaneously reveal the power card, add that total on, so combats can go one way or the other. Multiple paths of victory, do you ally with races? Do you conquer them all? Do you sort of chop and change as the game goes on? Is there a particular race you really want in your, lineup? Oh, I love it. I love the spacefaring game so much. I mean, respect to other space games, except for Eclipse. Yeah, I'm gonna milk it, trust me. Hate that game. But, oh yes, theme, artwork, gameplay, everything I want in a spacefaring game. Empires of the Void 2nd edition, love it to bits. Okay, number 14, we have my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game. Yes! Uwe Rosenberg is featured on my top 100 a lot. I like his style of games. Not every game, and there are a couple of his works that I'm not a fan of, like Glass Road, and Nooseford was a bit like meh, and Le Havre was alright for a while, but I find that ever since I found out you can basically break the game by going mad on debt, which doesn't make any sense, I kind of burnt off that one as well. This is hands down my favourite one. Sorry if I'm itching my nose a bit, it's a bit dusty in here, I think, or it's about to have some hay fever from outside, but oh yes. Fields of ARLE is my favourite Uwe Rosenberg game, and this is mostly played solo, but with Tea and Trade, I can now play it second or, second, 2 or 3 player as well. It always was a 2-player game, but I didn't often get it to the table as a 2-player, but it was a great head-to-head thing. Now I can play it 3-player, and it doesn't take any longer, or at least not much longer, because with 3 players you get to have a starting setup, a boost to keep you going in the game, and you play less rounds. So a 2-player game plays very differently to a 3-player game, but it doesn't take any shorter or longer. Fantastic. Why can't more games do this, people, okay? This whole thing of, you can play it with up to 6 players, and your time taken will be 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 days, before you finish. It's like, come on, balance time length with the number of players, people. But aside from that, this is the quintessential farming sandbox point salad Euro game. Caverna is fantastic. And if you like Agricola, fine. That's, I respect it, but for you it might be brilliant as well. But I love Fields of ARLE. Fields of ARLE, I literally can do what I feel like. And even compared to Caverna, which already has you doing pretty much what you like, you feel like there's just so many options, so many ways to go. Essentially, you are building this like farmland area on kind of like the coast of ARLE. It's kind of like on the wetlands, and you've got to drain the area of water, and harvest peat. You can build fields to harvest like wheat and grain and flax, that kind of thing. You can have pastures for animals. You can extend dikes or build dikes. I forget how the science of it works, but basically, extend your field, push the water back so it doesn't flood. And the great thing with this is and you can even ship goods off to other villages for points and other resources. Tea and trade gives you a tea resource, which does lots of cool shenanigan things, but also more buildings and a way to export to other places. The options are vast. You can have vehicles. You can have a building. You can have special buildings. Point gain buildings or special ability buildings. Loads of things in this game get you points, so everything feels rewarding. It's a table hog. Huge table hack. I mean, this thing, you need a mansion table. You need this table, my Gigason table, to do well with it. Oh my god, it's a hog. But love the options, the variety. It's still heavy. It's still worker placement. It works on this list of tools. You have things like, the fisherman's net, like the master builder, like kilns, ovens, for baking and stuff. And the idea is that they start off at a certain level, and it dictates how powerful the action is. But if you take the time to level yourself up in the various tools, the action becomes better for you. So you have a general action that's get wood, and it might start off as get 1 wood. But if you go to a different action in order to level up your axe effectively, get better axes, you get more wood as you do the action. And it works for baking, getting animals and fish and peat and oh god, there's so much you can do in this game. I don't have enough time on this video to describe it all, especially with tea and trade included. But honestly, you want a sandbox Euro, a sandbox point-salad Euro. I can't recommend anything better than Fields of ARLE. This one does not get enough buzz because people are usually humdrum on Caverna or Agricola. People forget about Fields of ARLE. It wasn't publicized as much, and it being only 1 or 2 player does make it a bit restrictive, but now I can play it 3 player, and trust me, the 3 player mode is great in this. But even solo, I just sometimes like to break out the game, all the pieces, and just decide, right, how am I going to do this? What farm am I going to build today? And it's just glorious fun. Fields of ARLE, number 14, and it's risen 4 places. I don't think it will be a top 10 game, but it's going to remain steady. I love this heavy Euro. Okay, number 13. We're now, again, risen 9 places. So the stuff that's getting closer to my top 10 is starting to elevate. I play it more and more, and it becomes better and better. And sometimes it's an expansion, sometimes it's just getting it to the table more. But this one isn't my favorite of the lot. I would probably say, if you don't count LCGs, yes, this is my favorite deck building game. As in, pure deck building game. Because one thing about deck building is that I love the mechanic. I love a good solid deck building game. It's one of my favorites. Just that sort of tactical thing of how am I going to build my deck? How am I going to tweak it? What cards do I want to buy? Oh, I can buy that card or I can buy that card. And they're usually quite quick games. I do hate deck building though when you shove it into a game as a side mechanic just to make it more complex for Euro games. Alexander Pfister, I'm talking to you. Ninja cows, come on. But I don't want it as a side mechanic. It just destroys all theme, or little theme, the game had to begin with, and just doesn't make sense and just overcomplicates it. A pure deck builder is the way to go. Valley of the Kings is my favorite go-to deck builder. I wonder if it's behind me. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Valley of the Kings. The original one, I'm not going to get the cards out here because you can see pictures, but comes in the back this big. This is like a bang for your buck game. It's a great tiny game. It's fantastic. But I've ordered, and I'm hoping to get it soon, please, the deluxe set for Valley of the Kings. Comes in a bigger box, has all the expansions in, they're tarot-sized cards, component quality increase. Oh man, I cannot wait for it. But the thing with this game is that it's, let's say, at its core, a deck builder. Have you played Dominion? Have you played similar things like that? Thunderstone and Star Realms and that? Similar concept. You're deck building. But what separates this one from others is there's a couple of things. Firstly, this pyramid mechanism where you have 1 card, 2 card, 3 cards, and you can only buy your cards from the bottom level. As you buy each card though, it crumbles down. So you essentially, like, you buy 1 card and then another one slots down. You might have enough gold to buy that one. You can create some cool things, and it's thematic to the whole thing of being pharaohs in Egypt. Secondly, you have multi-use cards, and I love multi-use cards. Multi-use cards allowing you to say, right, I need this card for the money, but I do like it for this cool ability as well. And it's like, which one do I use? Do I use it for its ability or its gold? What other cards in my hand can I use for a cool ability? What combos and shenanigans can I get up to? And that's all great as well. But here's the key, and it's the focus of the game. You don't score for any cards in your deck, unlike other deck builders. You have to entomb a card. You get a free one every turn, but you probably need other abilities to do it quicker. And with this entomb ability, you pop the card from your deck into a side pile called your tomb. And they score. And it's based on set collection. So the cards are split up into different sets. Some have 3, some have 6, some have 7. It varies. And with the expansions, you have different sets and you can intertwine for more variety. But the idea is that you have to get the cards into the tomb to score. So when it's in your tomb, great. But once it's in your tomb, it's stuck there. You can't get it back. So you lose its gold value, but you also lose its cool ability. So during the game, you have to reach a point where you need to start entombing cards. But then you're like, do I want to entomb this card? Because I kind of like the ability. It's going off a lot. Maybe I'll leave it till later and entomb this one. You get rid of your starter cards, and you tweak your deck by entombing. So you don't have to do this whole thing of in other games where you have to trash a card or sacrifice a card. I mean, you can do that here as well, but you can also simply just entomb the card and it's out of your deck. And I've played this game where I ended up with like a 5-card deck at one point because I'd entombed so much that literally I was drawing the same 5 cards every turn. You can create some weird stuff with this. But all the different cards, the variety, the fact that if you just buy a normal version, it comes in a box so little for such a low cost. I love this deck builder. It just sings to me. Granted, I prefer to play it solo or 2-player. 3-player is fine. If anyone is subject to analysis paralysis, though, you are not invited into the game. But 4-player probably gets a bit too long, and the whole deluxe set is trying to make me go 5 or 6 players. What? 5 or 6 players? You better have done some rules balancing, Tom, or Tom Cleaver and AEG. You better have done some rules balancing if you're going to make this play with 5 or 6 players, because I do not want to even try that. That would just, I think, be hell on toast for me in terms of downtime. But, generally, 1, 2, or 3 players, I love this game a lot. My favorite deck builder, Valley of the Kings. If you hear some lawnmower outside, I do apologize. Unfortunately, I can't tell my neighbors to stop doing stuff when I'm trying to record videos. But there's only 2 more to go. Number 12, new debut. The highest new debut on my top 100. I have a feeling that most of you who are being pretty up there with my list and what I've been doing lately will kind of see this one coming, especially as you've probably ruled out all the other potentials. I mean, you've seen me do pictures of it, I did a review of it, it's pretty much staring you in the face right now. Yeah. Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, my highest debut at number 12. Love this game. This is, again, I love Lord of the Rings as a theme anyway, so I admit that helps. If this was a game with the same mechanics about some historical 1770 rebellion or something like that, I probably wouldn't care. But the Lord of the Rings works. but I love this. It's kind of like my own personal favorite. Well, not favorite. There is one coming later, but it's one of those sort of dungeon crawl style games where the setup takes no time at all. The story is still immersive. The theme is still well represented, and the bookkeeping is kept to a minimum because it uses an app to help with the game. And I know some people out there are kind of like, well, it uses an app, I don't need any of the components, I'd rather just play a video game. Yeah, whatever. I can kind of see your argument, yes, but I'm still got pieces on the board and I still enjoy manipulating those pieces and seeing it all play out in front of me. I know when you do it solo, that argument probably has more merit, but you know, apps are not killing games for me, people. Listen to my latest podcast episode where I talk a bit more about that. But I love the way that this game, I mean, it's good value for its money. Yeah, it costs you a good 70 odd quid to buy it. And you're getting a bunch of tiles, great artwork on these map tiles, you know, some miniatures and all these cards. But the app itself is well designed. It's 90% reliable. It's had some buggy issues now and again, although some of that is down to trying to port it to my TV up there. And I think that is actually the buggy component, not the app, because when I use it on my actual tablet, it works flawlessly. When I try to port it to my Chromecast and that, it sometimes has issues. But I like having it up there for the soundbar and all that for music. And you know, the fact is that it's got like 14 missions or something like that in the base set campaign. So it will keep you going. And that's just with certain characters. You can play this with up to 5 players, I think. I play it solo with 2 characters. I could play through the whole campaign again with 2 different characters and the game would play out very, very differently. For starters, how I approach each mission. First time I used Elena and Legolas. I used the 2 elves. And one of them was a supporter. She was able to get inspiration for both characters really easily. And Legolas is naturally, kills everything in sight at long range. So I had to be very quick, but also so I had to shoot at range and not get in the close combat. But now I'm playing through the DLC content with Aragon and Beravor, 2 rangers. And, well, a ranger and a Dunedain, but similar. But the idea is that my whole style of play has changed because now they're both melee characters. And one of them is kind of boosts his troops, and the other one is super mobile. I can sprint all over the place and take people with him. And suddenly my style of play has changed dramatically, even though I'm doing different missions. But even if I was to take the same base campaign again through, the missions would play out differently because the map layout changes with the app. Side little quests that you come across, like little story elements that you can use to get more experience, they change. They won't necessarily be there. One game I'll be walking around and there's a wounded ranger and I should probably help him out. Another time I play through the same scenario, I might find something completely different. It may give a similar reward, but it's a different story element and it keeps things fresh for repeat plays. More DLC can come out of this with downloadable content pretty easily. I do admit that this whole figure pack thing that Fantasy Flight did recently, cash grab, like you wouldn't believe. But yeah, that was kind of scalping money there, I'm afraid. I bought it anyway because I wanted the content and I wanted the miniatures, but come on, you better rethink that because that's going to get expensive quick and probably put people off if you're not careful. But enjoy this one, solo or in a group, I don't mind. I'll play it in a group, we'll cooperate, co-op games are great, like how are you going to use your character, you need to come over here and help me out, supporting each other. But even solo with 2 characters, the upkeep is very simple. What have I got to do? I've got to handle, a couple of decks. So, where's my deck? Actually, have I got my decks here? Yeah, so I've got to handle a small deck, probably about this big of cards. I've seen it because I've got it laid out in front of me here, with a rolled up neoprene mat. Oh, so beautiful, that neoprene mat. Hopefully I'll get a picture for you put up on that. You can see this 3 by 3 foot by 3 foot map in all its glory of Middle Earth. I use it for all my Lord of the Rings games. But yeah, I just have to manipulate this little deck. There is a lot of shuffling, but I love the skill-based choices you have to make on what are you going to do with this deck. You get to scout at the beginning of every round and at other times, and it allows you to look at cards and pick one to place face up and gain the bonus. But you choose whether to put the other cards on top or the bottom of your deck, and based on whether it's got success icons on it, you might be like, okay, well, I'll put those on top and put them on the bottom. But then you're like, well, hang on a minute, I want to draw that card soon, so maybe I don't want to put it there yet. and it might be a weakness card, you know, a dead card in your deck, and it's like, well, why would I want to play it? Well, if I play it, it's no longer in my deck, which means that my deck is now more finely tuned. You know, little decisions like that, not brain-burny ones, but enough to keep you engaged. I like the way the card mechanic system works, and yes, it's similar to rolling a die for successes, but you tweak your deck a little bit with experience, and there's just feels like there's a little bit more control over it. But again, yes, there's an element of luck involved. It's effectively a dungeon crawl, but just handles great. The music, ambient music, and the app is a brilliant design. You know, it works, as I said, 95%, 90%, you know, bug-free. And again, probably more my TV's fault, but I love it. I bought this game, you know, and thought like, okay, this is a lot of money into this, you know, I hope it lives up to some of its merits. And, you know, it didn't even get hyped that much, I believe. It got announced and people were like, ooh, this could be cool, but I don't think the hype was as high for this one. Personally, I'm surprised it wasn't a bit higher. It is a solid game. I love this one. Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle-earth. I get why some people don't like it. It depends what you want from a dungeon crawl, but I get a kick out of it. You know, I didn't think I would. I think I like it more now than when I first reviewed it. And I gave it a very positive review. But the more I've played it, the more I went through that campaign as my guys leveled up and got cooler items and cooler stuff. And you fought enemies, and it just feels rewarding to have like your tactics go well for you. Like, you know, it's like, they're coming from over there. They're going to move to somewhere close to me. Maybe if I haul up in this dungeon, if I can deal with the darkness, you know, like sapping up my spirit, I might just be able to cap them all at long range. And what do you do? What happens? I go into the dungeon, 3 goblins come in, bang, through 3 heads. I basically do a Deadpool on them. Fantastic. Love this game. And now finally, it's not even moved. This one has stayed at number 11 since last year. Constantly trying to like, let me into the top 10, please. This was the first game I ever played at my local Portsmouth group when I got introduced to them. Yeah, the first time I found out how widely expanded board games were when I started getting into the hobby properly. This was the game I was shown when I turned up to the club. They put in an expansion straight away because I said I was a quick learner and I didn't want to cheapen it for the other 6 players that were there. We did a 7-player game of this and I wiped the floor with them by going full on military. This is not a gateway drafting game, definitely a next step, but it is one of my favorite. Is it my favorite drafting game? Depends what you think of a game coming up in a couple of numbers time, but 7 Wonders, still really love this drafting game. I mean, I like to throw in a couple of expansions, not all of them, and I like all the expansions. There isn't really a dud for me. I like Babel. I like the Tower of Babel and those projects, but for some reason it's a hard one to sell to others. But Armada was pretty solid, and I suppose my favorite combination is probably Leaders and Cities. Like for most people, that's their favorite combo. But, simple drafting game. Drafting these cards, playing them out in front of you, building up your civilization. Do you want the resources? Do you want the yellow trading cards, the blue point cards, the green science? You know, the rules to it are simple enough for gamers, but probably just a bit too much iconography for a gateway gamer. But most people I know how to play this game, so we can get through it nice and quick. You know, we're in sync. I don't have to constantly say to the people who know this game, like, are you ready yet? Don't take your cards, don't look at them as that, because that frustrates me when I teach new players this, hence I don't consider it a gateway game. But all the options I have now, all those expansions, all the different ways that I can play, which board do I have, that can dictate how I'm going to play the game, but you still got to be tactical, because I could be noticing, it's like, not a lot of science is going around. Maybe I have a good chance of collecting science, or maybe because I know I can buy these resources from my neighbors, if I just get enough money, I can hold off putting them in front of me. Or, my 2 neighbors are looking a little bit low on the military. Okay, let's build some of that up and then, get them out that way. There's a lot of different ways you can play it, and I get it that you're kind of only concerned about the 2 next to you for the most part, although throw in the Tower of Babel and that changes things. But even Armada does to a certain extent with its naval combat. It's just, I don't know, it just flows smoothly. It's great fun. I've yet to get bored with it. You know, I love trying out the different civs, and, you know, especially as I've unlocked most of them, and throwing in different combinations of expansions, even if Babel doesn't get played as much, unfortunately. But yeah, love it. The little anniversary packs that came out with it, with, you know, extra cities and leaders. The cities one was a little bit of a cop-out because it pretty much felt like 3 different cards repeated 3 times. That was a little bit lame. But the new leaders, love them. Throw them in as well, because then leaders has got so many different leaders for you to pick from. Definitely like the cities and leaders combo. But yeah, you know, not a game I want to teach to new players on a regular basis, but certainly with people I know, it's like I can say, what do we need? 45 minutes? We need a drafting game? Got 7 wonders. And usually it ropes in a good amount of players. I prefer to play this with anywhere between 3 and 5 because I like to see the cards potentially come back round again. With 6 and 7, you might as well just kiss the cards goodbye as soon as you've let them go. So, I don't know, I find it's a little bit harder to control what you're doing. But like I say, I enjoy this at all player counts, except for 2. That sucks, but oh well, you can't have everything. 3 to 7 players though, still enjoy this one. 7 wonders. Whew. Yeah. 10 games, and I feel like I've just talked about 20, but yeah, I hope I went into decent enough detail into those 10 with the pictures and everything I was saying to help you understand why I love these games. And thank you guys for the comments in the previous video and the ones before. Really liking the debates that you're coming up with, you know, about games that are on my list or not on my list. I like that you've spoken about like the sort of passionate way of talking about these, because I do love talking about these games. These are my favorite games. Why would I not? But you've all been very kind to me in the comments, you know, 99% of you anyway, and, you know, can't say thank you enough. You know, it's hard work to do these Top 100 videos, but we're almost there. 2 more videos to go, a Top 10 and the Aftermath. But the Aftermath's going to be relatively quick. I'm just going to skim through the ones that didn't make the Top 100 and give some reasons. You know, that'll be super quick. I'm not even going to bother with the lower third thing down here. That will just be going straight through them. Probably... Maybe I'll do the Aftermath more as a vlog, you know, just sort of do it nice and quick, because that one I can get through fine. You know, you're more interested in the Top 100, some of you more interested in the Top 20, which is understandable, so not long now. I don't know when I'll get the next one out, hopefully a week after this one, we'll say. You know, I mean, I'm trying to get them done because obviously I want to go back to normal top 10s. You know, I've got ideas in place. I need to start asking my Patreons for their Patreon choices and like vote on which lists they want me to do. But yeah, there's some cool top 10s to come in the future. But for now, I've got to wrap up the top 100. So 10 games. None of them are new debuts. They're all games that have been on the list before. Some risers, some fallers. Has my number 1 changed? You'll have to wait and see. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next section of the last section of the Broken Meeple Top 100. I hope these 10 games were to your liking. If not, then maybe you're an Eclipse fan or a Great Western Trail fan. But, you know, we all have games we like and don't like. It's what makes this hobby so diverse and so much fun. So take care. I'll see you next time. And remember, as always, it's only a game. See you next time.